get started. Welcome to the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting. It's Monday, June 14th at 4 p.m. We're in the Carson City Community Center, Robert Bob Kroll Boardroom. Can I get a roll call, please?
There we go. Okay, Stacy Giomi,
I'm here.
Mike Jones,
Here.
Steve Kim,
Here.
Bobby Rader, here, Steve Reynolds.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And can I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thanks. We move on to item 4, public comment. Is there any in-room or on the phone public comment?
There are no callers on the line at this time.
Thank you. Item 5, approval of minutes. I'll ask for a motion to approve the May 10th and May 24th board meeting minutes. One was the budget hearing, unless there's any changes or corrections by a board member.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move on to the consent agenda that covers items 6 and 7. Would any member of the board like any individual item discussed or taken from the consent agenda? Would any member of the public have any individual item pulled and discussed of the individual? Hearing none, if I can get a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion to go with the consent agenda as is.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. On to item 6, discussion and possible, we'll move on to item, I guess I gotta turn the page. Item 9, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed resolution to augment the 2020 through 2021 budget in the amount of $973,680. Chris, if you kind of give some background on this, we have a few new board members that haven't gone through the process.
Yes.
So
So this is to augment our original fiscal year 21 budget that was submitted to taxation. We budgeted less revenue than we thought we were going to have with COVID and everything. So we're augmenting to bring in the additional revenue and any other additional items that came in or any other additional expenses. So on page 2 of 16, this is the general fund. They, about a third of the way down, it says, whereas the additional unanticipated resources are as follows. So the first one is the actual beginning fund balance in excess of amount budgeted. So this was what we budgeted. This is the additional that we brought in from fiscal year 20 to 21. Then the increase in projected room tax revenue, that is what we brought in from when we budgeted way back before COVID hit, and then where the room tax we are projecting it'll come in through the end of this fiscal year. The next one is the intergovernmental revenue. We didn't budget for any grants. We figured there wouldn't be any, but then Commission on Tourism came in and opened that up, and Lydia got us $59,902 in grants. Then we have increased projected miscellaneous income. This $214,982. This is the money that came from the arts and culture from the city. When the city decided to move the arts and culture position back to us, this is what was left in their fund for the arts and culture. So this will be the beginning fund balance for us for arts and culture. And then the transfer from V&T Capital Projects Fund, this is, we're anticipating additional revenue. So The V&T capital project will have additional revenue, and this is the transfer that comes from there into our account for marketing. So that explains where we're bringing it from, the original appropriated $898,599 to the general fund. So we're increasing the $2,178,818 to $3,077,417. And then the next couple pages are the breakdown of the stuff we just went over. So it's the first column is the financial or the final budget that we submitted to taxation for fiscal 21, then the revisions, and then this is the revised revenue source that we will have at the end of, we're estimating that we'll have at the end of fiscal 21. And then the next page is just a roll-up of the sums. So on page 3 is the differences in expenditures for fiscal 21. And if I go too fast, you guys just have to holler at me. So in the final budget, we had budgeted for pay decreases to kind of help save some money with COVID. Then the board back in September decided to give us back the rates we were at. So this is the revision column on this one, is to give those monies back to bring the payroll back up to where it's going to be. Services and supplies, David cut the budget pretty well because we actually have less services and supplies than we originally budgeted for the general part. And then under culture and recreation, they did a good job of doing the same thing where even though Lydia had grants in that we had to match, she kept it within the current budget we already had. So we only have an additional $4,648 in services and supplies. And then in the intergovernmental expenditures, that's like the interlocal payment to the city, the field maintenance and things like that. Those are percentage based. So because we're bringing in additional revenue, we're estimating that we're going to have another $28,000 in additional interlocal payments. Are there any questions on the general fund before I go to the next one?
David, good job on cutting expenses. And Lydia, bringing in some extra grant money when we thought we were going to have none. Thank you. Any questions or concerns from the board?
Okay, so then the next one is the capital projects. This is 2% of the lodging tax. And at the beginning of the fiscal year, we actually had a shortage of 13,204. So that's what we were budgeting way back in 20. And then what was actually brought in at the end of 20 was short. But then the increase this year from what we budgeted for 21 and ending 21, we're going to have about 61,000 additional dollars. So that brings the total that we're augmenting to 48,197. The same type of thing here, the next page, the breakdown, it's just showing the final budget of room tax and then the revisions for the additional room tax that we'll be bringing in and the revised revenue source. I'm gonna skip to page 3. I'm sorry, it's actually 10 of 16, but it's 3 of capital projects 4. The interlocal or intergovernmental expense on this one does not change because this is the actual bond payment. It's a set number, it's not a percentage. And then if we skip over to page 12 of 16, this is the V&T Capital Projects Fund. Same thing here, they came in as a shortage from fiscal 20 to 21 as the 34,517. But then we had an additional increase of 61,000 for this fiscal year. So that makes this augmentation change 26,884. And so on page 13 of 16 is showing there where the additional room tax is coming in. And then on the very last page, we have more in the operating transfers. This is the money that would transfer into the general fund. The reason it doesn't match the number that we're showing in the general fund is because if we end up bringing more revenue in than what we're figuring we're going to bring in, that would increase our transfers and our interlocal payments. So I've added some just to kind of cover so we don't have a problem with getting a finding because we're having an additional expense here. Any questions?
Questions from the board? If there are no questions, I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve the augmentation.
I move to approve the resolution to augment the 2020 to 21 budget as presented.
This is Stacy, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Chris, for putting this together. Thank you. Item 10, presentation of the fiscal year 2022 communications plan. David, I think you, along with our friends from
Thank you,
KPS3.
Chair Jones. Yeah, Dave Peterson for the record. So Chris Yabu is going to walk us through the FY22 communications plan. So this will be our sort of our bridge over for the next fiscal year coming out of COVID. And Chris will talk a little bit about this, setting us up for this next fiscal year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy to take it off.
Hello, everyone. Chrissy Yabu, KPS3. And behind me, we have Andy Walden, our VP of Marketing, and Nicole Shearer, our PR Director at KPS3. And I'm the Vice President of PR. It is really great to be here today to present to you the 2021-22 fiscal year communications plan. Essentially, it is reverting back to what it was prior to COVID, all about being designed to build and leverage relationships with partners in the media, as well as activating our partnerships with Travel Nevada and other DMOs.
Can you hold on? Yeah, so we can.
Stacy, can you see the
Quick.
presentation on your end?
I cannot.
Stacy cannot see
I
it.
mean, I can follow along because I have the paperwork, but I'm not seeing it displayed on the screen.
Okay, we're trying to get it up on the screens here too, so
Yeah,
hold please.
it would.
As I keep you occupied, I just wanted to say that we were awarded with the PRSA Silver Spike for our Rail Bikes Media Day. And our chapter, this is the highest award for our chapter for the Public Relations Society of America, and I wanted to congratulate the team for this effort. And it was a wonderful media day. We had
Very
lots of
nice.
media.
Little round of
Yes. Did that come with an extra prize? Is there any money?
Regular Coke for everyone.
We'll have a quick recess here until we get some technical issues.
Oh, yeah, that function. Oh, okay. You're so good. All right.
All right, I think we're ready to go. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. So the plan for communications is really reverting back to what it was before the pandemic, creating a strategy that's designed to build and leverage relationships with partners and media while effectively communicating our Carson City story. And our philosophy is that when PR, content, and social media complement one another and work together, those synergies really amplify our message. Coupled with our digital-first mindset Understanding our opportunities and optimization can be found through data, and working together with all those things creates a more meaningful result for all of us. So our aim and goal for this year, as it has for many years, has been to welcome more visitors to the area while increasing overnight hotel stays. And it's really as simple as that. So driving those room nights, that awareness and interest, that's going to have people book their hotel here in Carson City. Our primary target audiences have also not changed, really relying on the primary audiences of older weekday travelers to fill in those weekday nights. Retirees are on the road and are avid travelers, and road trips are really not going anywhere for the time being. So everybody's still getting in their cars and traveling short distances to visit. Millennial families are also a great target audience. They travel more than other generations and rely on and value quality time, relaxation, safety, and convenience, which is important to them. We have a lot to offer these families here when they come to town. And in addition to that, some of our niche audiences will be business travelers, railway buffs, mountain bikers, capital chasers, and Highway 50 truckers. And this maps great to some of the things and the content that our travel writers and reporters like to cover because it is unique to the destination. In terms of our objectives, these also have been pretty steady over the last year or so. Coming out of the pandemic, we decided to maintain our 30 regional national stories and our overall pub value of $225,000. We're right at that point now with the pandemic based on a few really good hits this last year. So just conservatively moving forward, we're going to keep that strategy. Leverage and strengthen partnerships, of course, with Travel Nevada and the Reno Tahoe territory, and also neighboring DMOs to leverage and kind of collectively work on and amplify our center point location to work together to receive that cooperative coverage. And then finally, everything drives back to the website. So helping increasing that website traffic and hotel page conversions is where we will know when people are visiting and wanting to book. This is generated in part by referral traffic and social media content, as well as our media coverage. What we're going to do a little bit differently this year is as we come out of COVID, we're going to continue to monitor the safe and responsible travel messaging that we have been doing. But really, travel is back, and it is back more than ever. And so working in parallel with that demand is going to be really important coming into the next month or so. We're seeing that media are also recovering. A lot has changed in the last year. So as they are revamping their efforts and their travel sections, so are we. So we'll continue to monitor that to that and work with them to at least get on their calendars for this year or on their radars for this year so that we can continue to create that demand. Again, forging relationships with local, regional, and national print, broadcast, online media, as well as influencers, vloggers, and bloggers. So these content creators are itching to come back and be exposed to all the great things that we have to offer to increase awareness for Visit Carson City. And again, invite targeted media from our target markets to participate in what we call press trips or familiarization visits with a focus on our brand pillars.
So Kim, you mentioned that it's coming back strong. And so I imagine everybody's vying for influencers and vloggers. And how does that, how do you get them interested in us and not, somebody else? Because everybody wants their time. You see that that's going to be detrimental to us?
No, I don't, Mike. I think that it creates a great opportunity. It's all about the pitch and what we have to pitch in terms of our uniqueness of the area is going to be key, in addition to what we have to offer as a region. So I think with the road trip still being a trend as well as family travel and boomer travel, I think a lot of these people are going to want something less crowded and a little more maybe affordable or a small town like in terms of that vibe. So I think the opportunities are great. And now is a really good time to pitch and start to get out there again with some of these regional travel media outlets and work in tandem with our partners to see how we can collectively bring people here. The influencers and bloggers are all going to have availability and going to want to come no matter what. They're easy to work with. They love this kind of stuff. It's just a matter of budgeting our priorities, correctly and making sure that we have good balance between influencers and travel writers coming here.
Thanks.
Let's see. So continue to working with RTT, which we have had some great success with recently. Just last week, we had some folks here in town posting on social media, and we'll continue to do more content for us in the coming weeks. And then collaborate and partner with DMOs and other entities to amplify our joint media efforts. So part of the effort too is to partner with these folks in our neighboring towns and making sure we're all in alignment with what we're doing with the writers. The travel industry is pretty small. Even it's kind of interesting to see how small the writers groups are. So we're all working together for the same thing. So it's always great and better to collaborate. In terms of tactics and activities, Mike, this addresses your kind of tactical question about pitching angles and pitch emails that are really important to be able to dial in into what they're covering and what the trends are. Again, pitching our brand pillars because they are really good right now. Outdoors still a very big part of coverage these days. Arts and culture adds that great colorful component to what we have to offer. Again, our history is wonderful for all those history buffs, and the food scene's really up and coming too with the downtown area. We will create and distribute press releases as needed to amplify things like events as they return, new attractions, and again, news stories about Carson City in general. So we amplify or utilize the press release as needed, and then we monitor those media opportunities. So that news bureau out there is what we're doing. We're looking at what writers are covering, how they're coming back into the markets, and who they are too, because a lot has changed again in the travel space with all of these writers. We have a FAM evaluation form and process of evaluation when we do select to work with journalists, writers, and influencers who are a fit for us. So that'll continue. Collaborating with our industry partners on FAMs and media missions and distribution of content. I don't think we've done media missions as an industry in about 14 months or so they will be coming back. And that's another great opportunity to meet with these folks in person, all in one place, and start to pitch them. Visit Carson City will be working with us on, essentially Lydia, with us on FAM itineraries and putting together the details on their custom visits. And most of these FAMs will be self-guided. And we also respond to HARO requests every day. So Help a Reporter Out is a system that we use where writers are looking to cover specific things. Coordinating and collaborating our PR, social media, and original content on visitcarsoncity.com as a synchronized effort, again, with Lydia and team to deliver a consistent message. We use our Cision to track and monitor media, again, as we look at the News Bureau and what they're covering. Working with our internal KPS3 and Visit Carson City creative and digital teams to align with our brand focus and generating our monthly reports so you always know where we're at in terms of our KPIs. Our approach is to primarily target the regional, national, print, broadcast, and online entities, but our primary markets are really going to be kind of a concentric circle, starting with like Lake Tahoe outlets and Nevada outlets, in addition to on a DMA basis, based on where our visitorship is coming from. A lot of these are great drive markets right now, and it will continue to be so with the road trip kind of trend. And then in our secondary fly markets, Denver, Houston, Phoenix, Portland, Seattle, Salt Lake City. Focusing a little bit too on some of these family-friendly boomer and general travel bloggers and influencers, and additional media to include those little niche audiences, outdoor, railroad history, etc.
Can I, on the secondary markets, how do you go about, I get Portland, Seattle, Houston, and Dallas. What goes into the decision-making to include those?
Say again.
What goes into the decision-making to include Houston and Dallas? What makes them a secondary market and a popular, as opposed to, someone else in St. Louis?
Yes, we're looking at what our web traffic is driving. So we're mapping those audiences to who all is visiting, mostly our online entities, and we get that data, quarterly, basically from
So
the
you
team.
tie it to the web
So
traffic.
we tie it to the web traffic, correct.
Can I add to that too? That's also based off of data from Travel Nevada as well. It's one of their larger markets that they found through their internal studies too. So it also just happens to track with our website visits as well.
All right, and now on to content strategy. Connecting with our visitors in a deeper way and on a personal level is how we will build long-term engagement. So content goes beyond that too, because good content drives search engine optimization, and it also drives a whole lot of other things that go into like a digital strategy. So what we do is we believe in authentic curated content, so nothing is bought or repurposed from somewhere else. It's all coming from us in an authentic curated way based on the key values of our brand. And as content creators, we also try to put our journalism hats on and approach content that relates to and engages with our audiences. We do have a content calendar for this year, which is informed and will be informed by ongoing keyword search volume and will help us identify any content gaps that may be necessary for those that are looking or searching for their next getaway. So we're built at KPS3 to sit next to our search team to be in touch with Lydia and her team on what is working and what is not on the web. And this all goes back to our main attraction categories and our brand pillars, basically historic, outdoor, arts and culture, and family friendly. There are also many ways a piece of content can be used, and part of our strategy is to repurpose these across multiple channels. So not only does it live on the website, but it can be distributed through social media handles, through our e-newsletters, be pitchable as content to writers and reporters, and expand to reach our audiences. So that is our priority in terms of ensuring that this effort is synced up for maximum exposure. In terms of video creation, this year we're going to be focusing still on video creation, however, working more with Lydia on commercial production through our creative team, using real people and leaders, community leaders, and locals, in terms of their participation in our video content. This allows us again to amplify that message through the visual channels and across social media. And then here's just an example of our working content strategy. So each month we do have a blog post assigned based on seasonality or topic. And those have worked very well in terms of giving more of a flavor as to what Carson City has to offer, in addition to all the other great content on the website, such as the events section, the attractions section, and so on and so forth. So that's just the peak of the calendar.
I'm going to handle the next slide, which is our social media strategy. As you've heard in our past meetings, we handle that in-house here, as well as the video content strategy. So they're really here to help us assist with really fine-tuning and producing those videos as far as scripts and things like that goes. And then on the social media side, helping us come up with our tone as we move forward. So our social media really ensures that it's seamlessly connected with our brand. It ensures that we have engaging photos, promotes our events, and that our content is really shared across all of our platforms. So our focus for our social media is that we're focusing on quality and not so much quantity. There is a balance that you need both, but we really want to make sure that we have quality content that we're producing that really has helped elevated us over the last almost 2 years that we've been working with KPS3. So we'll be using different tones across platforms to capture specific audiences while reinforcing our brand pillars. And for our newer board members, our brand pillars are rich history, heritage and cultural influence, an inclusive community, family friendly, and room to discover and wonder. So it's really what a lot of our content is focused on. So to summarize our overall approach for our entire content strategy, we're going to be continuing to position Carson City as a Nevada destination to launch from, and then promote overnight stays when it's relevant and pertinent. We'll be also promoting special events to help, obviously, with James and his efforts to drive room nights by way of a data-informed special event strategy, which you're going to be hearing about next from Brian. We'll be pushing our brand tone. We'll be informing audiences about events, activities, attractions, and everything that's happening around the region to help drive room nights. And it'll be also our goal for our content strategy is to increase our audience by a combined 15% across all channels for this year. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions from the board? No. Well, that's because it was such a nice presentation. Thanks to the KPS3 team. Appreciate you coming out this afternoon. We look forward to a better year, a more successful year. I think
Yes.
with
Thank you,
that, we'll move on to item 11, presentation of the new data-driven culture and tourism special events strategy. David?
Thank you, Chair Jones. So with us, we have Mr. Brian London, is the owner of London Tourism Publications. So this is something James and I have been working on for some time, probably since last late summer, late fall, with Brian on and off. And I'm very excited to say that today we have sort of the roadmap behind our data-informed special events tourism strategy. And it's not just for regular, sports tournaments. We also took into consideration the fact that the arts and culture program moved back underneath us. So arts and culture related events are a part of this presentation that Brian's going to walk us through. And again, it kind of nicely dovetails in, as you heard the communications plan. This is a piece, right, of what we're doing. But this just sort of flushes out how we're going to approach special events moving forward in terms of not just the support financially or otherwise by Visit Carson City, but just the approach to events, special events from a general standpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and let Brian take it from here. And then obviously any questions come up during, feel free to shoot them Brian's way. So Brian, if you can hear us, I'm going to let you take it over from here. Brian?
Yes, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Thank you for that introduction, and congratulations on your Silver Spike Award. As I'm going to spend about 15 minutes going through this data-informed strategy, and along the way, you might have some questions, and I want to encourage you to just stop me, right in the middle. If you have any questions, that's good. If you don't have any questions, that's okay too. That'll just mean that I'm presenting, in such a clear manner that I've anticipated everything you're going to ask and I've addressed it head on. And of course, if you do have questions, I'll just take that to mean that I am so inspiring of a speaker that the slides themselves are not enough and you just have to learn more. And so you're going to ask me questions along the way, and that's okay too. I am joined by London Publications Head of Security today. And so if you do hear some barking in the background, I just want you to know it's for your safety and for mine as well. But hopefully Wagner, the German Shepherd, won't be making an appearance anytime. Okay, so everyone can see my screen. This is our title slide. In fact, this is your title slide. And we try to make our presentations in this fashion because it's important that everyone in the community and on the board, values that this is your plan. Ultimately, I can help facilitate it and draw out best practices, but this is not on, my logo or my letterhead. This is the Visit Carson City plan, and I really hope that you're able to take ownership of it. This is an outline of what we're going to cover. I know you received this ahead of time, so you might have already looked through this. But I'm going to really focus on two things here in the outline. The first is the data-informed approach. The idea that we're going to be using data and information feedback from all stakeholders, event planners, travelers, visitors, potential, in order to get a holistic view of how the event's performing and its potential to inform. And also, what I want to draw your attention to is the experiential tourism background there, a little bit lower than the middle. This might be a newer concept for some destinations, but essentially experiential tourism seems to be the next evolution of the way that destinations position themselves in the marketplace. And I'm happy to answer questions or give examples about that as it comes through. If it's something that you might be unfamiliar with currently, by the end of the presentation, I hope you'll have a little bit of better appreciation for why it's an important strategy and how it can benefit the destination. Okay, so we're talking about collaboration here, and collaborating with stakeholders is really at the core of all of this, the background and moving forward. The organization just can't do it themselves, and nor would they want to do it themselves. They know that they're stronger when everyone can join hands. Now, destination organizations or CVBs, DMOs, they're really evolving, and the next evolution is what's known as destination leadership organizations. And that's you. That's what you are. You're the leader of the destination for the way forward. You have other stakeholders that help make those things happen, but it's your vision really coming to the table. And one of the ways that you're able to do that is that you play a very unique role, a role that other organizations in the city don't play. And that is you are the voice of the visitor. You're speaking up for them, and you are sharing their insight, their knowledge, their perception, their awareness levels in order to craft the message and in order to keep stakeholders engaged. Now, from an event standpoint, we need to anticipate travelers' needs. And so the first thing that we looked at is, well, what are the events that are even possible? When travelers are aware of the event lineup here, what is it, the common categories that they're probably running into? And the first is that there's a recurring participation or type of registered event. Think of like a softball or baseball tournament, for example. Another type of event is just a recurring event itself. For example, the Levitt AMP series. And then the third type of an event would be what we consider an anchor event, right? A large magnet that's drawing a lot of eyeballs and visitors. And in this example, we're using the Stewart Father's Day powwow. So this is what the consumer perceives. That's on the consumer side looking in. Let's talk about what we see looking out. These are our values and brand promise. Again, we're leading with collaboration. We need to ensure the highest quality experience for travelers so that they are going to have a positive word of mouth, as you heard in the prior presentation. Collaboration is key. And also they can help amplify our message on social media because they're having a good time while they're here. And that's something that now resonates in the marketplace. Now, when we do this well, we'll improve the quality of place, not just quality of life, but quality of place. Everything around us will just improve incrementally because we're doing it in order for the visitor experience to be more positive. And when we think of the marketing funnel, what this does for us is it allows us for travelers to think of us first when planning a vacation. If you remember those three types of events that we spoke about before, somebody might be here for, say, a registered event, okay? Meaning they're going to be wherever the event is, but it happens to be in Carson City. Well, because they're here and because they're having a high, quality of place and a high quality visit that is really experiential, we are now going to be in the consideration set for when they're planning their next vacation. And so we're able to use an event strategy as a lead gen strategy for future visitation. And so that's why we're really focused on what it's like when they're here in the destination, above and beyond the other programs that make sure that they are, aware of the destination to begin with. So that's the background. In terms of the process, I tried to do two things very well. The first thing I tried to do was look at different case studies from different destinations to see what they're doing right, what they want to do better the next time, what their resources might be that are available to them, and really try to select the most appropriate resource-based case study that would apply here at Carson City. The second thing that I tried to do really well is I tried to do different staff workshops and talk to different staff and engage with them. James especially was extremely helpful in order to understand what the process is, not just the sales process, but the facility process and understanding the calendar of events and all of these different kind of the algebra of what goes on when creating this strategy. And because of that, what you're going to look at includes not just tourism when you think of the tourism, but also includes art and culture. That's an important distinction, and we're going to do it in a measured way. And when we do it in a measured way, we can look back at the results and then fine-tune it in order to make improvements along for the next iteration. And so it's very process-driven. And when you have a strategy that's process-driven, you have multiple opportunities to just continue to fine-tune it along the way so that it gets you to where you eventually want to be. Residents are going to benefit from this. Business owners will benefit from this. Of course, government is going to love this. It's going to be their favorite program of all the government programs. And visitors, they're going to love it because it's going to be a unique event experience that they're not having when they go to other destinations and when they have other events. It's always illustrative to remember that travelers, it's not a visit to Carson City or no visit at all. You know, there's a travel career that visitors and travelers are engaging in. And so they're visiting multiple destinations, and Carson City is on that loop. And so they're comparing us against all these other places they've been, and it's important that we come out on top when the visitors do their evaluation. This strategy will get us there. So when it's over, this is pretty much what we'll be implementing. And the top half of this, we've already started to the analyzation, the analysis component. And then the bottom part of this, we've designed and will be able to implement when the fiscal year starts, and that includes the fine-tuning component that I mentioned. So we started by looking at all prior events that were in the destination, and we had survey data on hand. We wanted to look at it, we wanted to analyze it, slice and dice it, and see what the stew would look like when we were done cooking. We put all the events on a demand calendar to see when is peak season, when is off-peak season. We looked at what facility these events are being held in, indoors versus outdoors. We did all these things, including categorizing these events, as you saw with those first 3 categorizations that I showed you. And then we developed some tools to measure our approach throughout the year. We have an event manager experiential index. This is where we are going to understand before the event takes place how well it is able to deliver an experience that visitors say that is worth traveling for. It's not a question of whether the event will take place. It's a question of, is the event going to deliver a unique experience that we know travelers will pay a premium to do and will also travel to attend. Working with James, we're going to have these one-on-one conversations with event planners. This is pre-arrival to the destination. This is during the consideration phase, in order to make sure that this event is in line with the destination's pillars and also what's important to the destination in terms of operational efficiency. I'm going to show you those questions for the one-on-one conversation so you can see how everything dovetails in nicely with each other. And then finally, we'll perform our visitor surveys. We will ask attendees exactly what it was that they experienced when they were here, if it was close to their expectations or if there were things that they would like to see the next time that they visit. It's important to get these different viewpoints because what we learn from past strategies is that depending on what side of the equation you're on, you might see the problem differently. An event manager might think that a particular event only needs 1 bathroom, for example. But we might learn from visitor surveys and other best practices that because of the size of the event, that actually 4 or 5 bathrooms located at either end of a facility might actually be the best way forward in order to get the best experience for the visitor. And so in that case, it's important, if we knew that before the event took place, then we can guide the production of it in order to guarantee a positive outcome for visitors. It's all about making sure that visitors have a positive experience here and that they leave thinking good things and then sharing those good things with others through social media. Okay, this is just meant to be illustrative of the idea that September, October, November, December is currently light on events. And that's probably no surprise. And then in the summertime, we see, May, June, July, August, we see more of a confluence of events that are taking place, more things to do. And so when we start evaluating future events, we'll run it through a similar matrix in order to make sure that there's things going on during a time of the year where we're trying to encourage travel. And also, if events are open to this idea, asking them to shift on the calendar and into a period where it would make more sense to generate demand. As you could imagine, there are certain times of the year where there's 5 or 6 or 7 events going on all at the same time in different parts of the destination, right? So you kind of have this saturation of things to do. But 1 month later, there might only be one thing going on a particular weekend. And so it's important to look at that in terms of saturation. That's what we've done. And we'll be able to then start scoring these events in order to kind of encourage them and remind them that there are other things and other facilities throughout the year that they could be taking advantage of. And oftentimes to the betterment of the event. You know, an event that doesn't have to compete against 5 or 6 other things is oftentimes in a better position than one that has to compete for the time and share of wallet. Okay, so we outlined some of the strategy, but now we're really getting into the nuts and bolts here of what it means to deploy this strategy. We talked about at the bottom of the list doing these one-on-one questions, and I'm going to draw your attention to 2 questions specifically. The first question I'm drawing your attention to is asking the event organizer, are you open to distribution of an RFQ for host lodging? Going back to the idea that we're driving overnight visitation, right, in one of our focus areas, this is important to make sure that this is a box that we can check. And I know working with James that he's already doing this, and this is also already one of the criteria. But what it does is it starts to generate this behavior, right, these habits for event planners and for ourselves that, you know, not all events are equal in terms of what we want at the destination level. You know, some events are more equal than others. You can see at the top of this questionnaire, we're talking about gathering some information, but also understanding what resources the event planner needs. And then to understand, as you see in the middle, when are you trying to have this event? So you can see peppered into these one-on-one questions is trying to fill in the matrix that I outlined earlier for what events are going to be the best fit for the destination in terms of event type, in terms of when the event's taking place, and then also in terms of what the event might need in order from resources from the organization. As you see the last question here, we send out surveys after the event has concluded. Are you comfortable sending those out for us to collect data? Going back, not to the idea that it's a requirement, but back to the idea that it's very collaborative, okay? And we're not trying to say gotcha to any particular organization. We're trying to say, this is what we're trying to achieve. You know, we look forward to you being our partner in trying to achieve that. And so that brings us finally, you know, to our strategic priority, which is, this is all in the name of experiential travel. We're trying to connect travelers to the destination, kind of to the essence of what Carson City is. Not just that we're a place with, you know, with facilities or, you know, indoor, outdoor fields of any kind, but that we're connecting them to our people, to the place, to our history, to our culture, to the family-friendly environment, that we're living the brand and connecting with them, as you read here, emotionally, physically, spiritually, or even on an intellectual level. Just as a heads up, we're about halfway through the slides that I'm going to present, and the next set of 9 slides will probably take about 5 or 6 minutes, just for those of you that are pacing. Okay, so this is the background to experiential tourism here. We're focused on the idea that something is unique to the area, not just that it's taking place in the area. And, you know, traditionally we've marketed tourism kind of just looking at mass market locations during peak season, right? They fish where the fish are. And we refer to that conversationally as destination tourism. But if we look at the trends and we look at really where the industry is headed, we know travelers are looking for something in which they feel a sense of adventure, or they can immerse themselves in new culture, and you know, they want to be like a local, right? Go where the locals go. And you probably heard that mantra for a year or 2, or maybe even 3 now. And that's what we're referring to as experiential tourism. This is a rehash of what I was narrating earlier in the presentation. When they do have an experience that is unique and memorable, we know that travelers will amplify these messages on social media. They will, in effect, extend our brand awareness. And so when we're able to capture one traveler from a market, and it's not just that the PR effort, you know, concludes there. The PR effort continues when the individual actually arrives to the destination. Then they're writing and sharing our story with others back home through social media. And we can do that again when we have high quality experiences that are memorable and shareable, and then combined with our digital marketing sophistication, as you saw in the earlier presentation, I think we'll come out on top. This is not too academic, but I did just want to give you an overview of ways that we'll evaluate the event product itself. And these are essentially 4 categories that we're looking for every event to include. Some events include these things naturally. Other events could include them. They just probably need a little bit of direction or reminder of what it means to do or to have these particular things. We want events to have some sort of educational component. We want active participation, right? Shouldn't always just be a spectator. It's got to be aesthetically pleasing. It's got to be, the trash has to be picked up. The bathrooms have to be clean. We have to pay attention to details. Those are the things that travelers notice. And there should also be a passive participation component, some sort of entertainment that allows them to enjoy their time. Entertainment does not necessarily mean screen time. It just means something that they enjoy and they're able to kind of have this passive participation. This next set of slides wraps up the presentation, and it gets to the tactical heart of the matter for what we're going to put together in this experiential index. These questions have been curated in order to understand where each event fits in these 4 categories. And there are numerous ways to go about collecting this information. What we're seeing here on the next few slides is one of several ways to go about it. This is also a sort of gap analysis for us to understand not just the level of sophistication for the events that are coming in, but also resource management for us at the organization to understand, okay, just how much legwork are we going to need to put in to making sure that this event is successful? And then how do we make sure that the resources we put in can carry over to next year's event or the following event and so on and so forth? We want an official logo. We want to make sure that there's some sort of memorabilia that's included here or something that they can collect, that the traveler can have as a keepsake. Here again, we want to know if the event offers programming that educates attendees. And you can start thinking through the list of events that take place in the destination and starting to generate these ideas. I mean, at this point, you should be popping like popcorn, really. Thinking about the events and all the different ways. Oh yeah, here's how we can educate attendees to the event. Here's how we can create a nice commemorative physical ticket, for them to put on their fridge when they leave the event and so on and so forth. And then in question 5 here, trying to understand, do they monitor social media to make sure that that's an avenue that they understand that they can amplify and work with the communications team in sharing messages. And then of course, these open-ended questions. What did they find memorable? What did they find unique? What did they find entertaining? Was it a well-organized event? As we collect more information, almost like a AI, like an artificial intelligence or what we're calling this data-informed process, the more data comes in, we'll be able to continuously fine-tune our approach to make sure that events are meeting the standard so that we can really propel ourselves in the marketplace. And then finally, we have just some general housekeeping items to make sure that what we have on record is the same thing that the event organizer is providing to us. If there's websites, we want to make sure that we're linking properly. If there's venues, we want to make sure not just that there's availability, but see if they're open to potential for venue switches along the way, but also making sure that we're working with the venue facilitator so that they're ready to go for the event when the time comes. Okay, so you got a very good flyby of what it means to have this data-informed event strategy, which focuses on the experience the visitor has when they're at the event and when they're in the destination. And we're only able to do that by collaborating with the different stakeholders in order to make sure that the event is holistic and unique and memorable and what we're calling experiential. Again, we'll take this data and we'll understand it by event type. We'll be able to plot it on future event calendars to understand our need periods. We'll collaborate on the visitor experience to make sure that their expectations are being met when they're here. And most importantly, we'll have high levels of stakeholder collaboration because all of these event experiences that we're delivering, they can't happen without the members of the community, without residential support, and this phrase that we're calling community alignment. And I probably leave you with this, this phrase here is think of our new event strategy or our data-informed strategy as something that seeks community alignment in order for the visitor to have the best experience when they're in the destination, in order for the resident to be proud of the events and offerings that they are putting out, for visitors to experience, for government stakeholders to make sure that, all the things that are important to them are taken care of as well. And that holistically, when we collaborate, we can really elevate the destination in terms of, the visitor desiring to visit here, not just for events, but after the event's over, that the visitor wants to come back for a future leisure visit, on their own time. Well, that concludes my presentation today. I'm available for questions if you have them either now, or if you want to hold your questions till later, I'll be happy to answer them via email.
Questions from the board?
I have a quick question for you. One of the strategies you mentioned was the visitor survey. I'm just wondering, what's the response rate on those?
Oh, thank you for your question. I didn't associate your voice with your name card, but
Oh, sorry, Steve Kim.
Mr. Kim, thank you for your question. The survey response is hard for me to answer because the methodology is a survey intercept, and so we are asking every nth random visitor, let's say every 3 travel parties that pass a certain point at the event venue are being approached and asking one person from each travel party to fill out a survey card, and so the incidence rate is generally high in these local events. We've never had an issue collecting less than 100 surveys per event. Moving forward, as we move to some online methodologies, then I'll be able to answer that question with some more clarity on how many surveys went out and how many came back completed. And then I can have a more specific answer for you on that rate.
Well, thanks, and thanks for the presentation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just to add to that, Steve, it does depend on the event too. Some sporting events are more successful in receiving surveys, especially if we are physically there conducting them. The chances increase of us of meeting our minimum of 100 surveys. The online portion of things, we're working on that and seeing what our bottom line would be versus what the average looks like. So we'll be able to figure that out probably within a couple more events.
I like it. I think it's really valuable. I was just wondering how much of it you get.
Yep.
David?
Yeah, Mike, if I could just jump in. So Steve, when we started this in 2019, it was intercept in person, James there, right? Or the team, or we had certain folks with their volunteer staff actually collecting on an intercept level. That's a lot of time. And I think we had over 2,000 survey completes, which Brian then was keying into the research.net, the SurveyMonkey tool. So last year, we made the decision, and of course, this is right before COVID hit, to switch to a digital only where possible. But then COVID hit, of course. So I think our first event with a digital survey collection was probably the futsal tournament, I think, to be honest with you. And I see Brian shaking his head too, and James. So yeah, I mean, we're going to need to cycle through a full calendar or fiscal year, calendar year of events, right? Just to have a baseline, especially for the new events. So that's what happened, just in terms of the data collection was all 100% in-person intercept. And then we moved to the digital online methodology last year. And then, of course, COVID shut all events down. So we haven't collected any data since obviously futsal. So I just wanted to just clarify. And then Steve has a question now.
This is Steve Reynolds. I see, I guess, two major parts of this, if I'm understanding it clearly. One is through the surveys and the information received both from the event managers and from the visitors to build a database of information that can use in our communication activities. The other, as I look at it, is to improve those local events and by filling, I guess, the events filling in the blanks of some of the things they could be doing but aren't doing when we're doing the product evaluation. Who, what activity is done to help the event manager or the event organization improve their event?
Well, I can answer that. Steve, pleasure meeting you. I don't think we've met before. So we look at things in terms of prior to the event taking place, what is the needs of the event in order for it to be successful? And we also look at it in terms of what's important for the person that's participating in the event to make sure that they get the full scope of what Carson City has to offer. A recent example I can give you is for the lacrosse tournament that's coming up this coming weekend. We built out a page that kind of gave them access to all the events or things that are happening during the same weekend. So we know from previous sporting events that a team might play at 9 o'clock, and then their next game is at 1 o'clock, and the next game is at 5 o'clock. So between that dead time, what are they doing? And we want them to visit all of our other ancillary things, activities, right? We want them to visit our museums. We want to make sure that our restaurants will be able to accommodate getting these groups in and out within a reasonable time frame. So a lot of that is communicating with our restaurants to make sure that they are aware that these events are happening, this tournament is happening, and that they have maybe a limited menu in order to accommodate bigger tournaments, such as the one that's coming this coming weekend. And so we look at things from prior to them coming, from them actually coming here, and then when they leave, Brian was hinting at what are some of the things that they can take back with them, right? What is something, a memorabilia that they can have, whether that be a custom ticket stub or some sort of trinket that they can take with them to kind of give them that post-event experience so that it ties in not to just the event itself, but to the brand of Carson City. So I think that's like the vision of how we were trying to approach this.
The plan sounds interesting, but again, the we is the staff at the Visitors Bureau or what?
Yeah,
Who's the we?
Me primarily, but there's a lot of us that kind of wear different hats, and so if I need help, David is usually there to help me, or Lydia. So it's just small team, so therefore we have to kind of help each other out.
And I would just add too, where we also, as James pointed out, engage with the different attractions, right, in Carson City as well. Maybe there's special tours, there's minting, might be something going on at the Brewery Arts Center. So engaging with our partners, our tourism partners in the community as well to see what might be taking place during a particular tournament or a biking event or whatever the case may be. And part of what we're doing too, we have the Stetna Ride coming up in September, and that's being tied in with the Silver State Art Festival. So there's the idea of combining events as well and different audience groups, bringing them together, to have a really, I think, amazing weekend experience. So we are a small team. We all kind of have to pick up for one another. Steve, James is absolutely right. But James is out in front of things on the front end, working with those event managers and also assessing, what are their visitors, or what are their participants, and their staffs, what are they interested in when they come into a community? And I think getting out in front of that ahead of time helps us to engage with the right businesses, tourism or otherwise in Carson City, to have that great experience. So, and this is something new, you guys. I should have started by saying there hasn't really been a quote special event strategy, let alone one that's data informed. And I think we want to listen to our event owners or our event promoters, but I think it's also important to listen to the residents who also go to these events, and then our visitors who participate in those events. And I think we need to get more information from those different stakeholders and bringing them together as well, so we can kind of see through different lenses what's the best approach to bringing in a new event, retaining an event. Maybe we're not endorsing an event, right, or supporting an event for particular reasons. It just doesn't make sense for us, and that's what this is really all about, because we certainly have a lot of different types of events here in Carson City, to say the least. So I'll just leave it at that. Go ahead, James.
And just to add one more point to that, we got to this point because the data that we collected from 2019 indicated that people were taking these tournaments and turning it into mini vacations. So we wanted them to stay here and spend money here. Obviously, they're going to go to Tahoe, they're going to go to Virginia City, they're going to go to those locations. But the more offerings that we can provide, the more informed they are, the more likely they are to stay and do some of these activities that we have here in Carson.
Yeah, and a large part, James, is right. A large part of it is educating folks before they arrive in the destination what else you can do. Because I think the worst thing that can happen is you have somebody come in for a soccer tournament. They get up, go to the game in the morning, go back to the hotel, sit there, and then they come out at 3 o'clock, play a game, and that's the extent of their visitor experience in Carson City. I think we're doing them a disservice, I would argue, by not engaging them to get out and about in Carson City and the surrounding area. And I think it all goes back to brand positioning. If we're that center point, right, for their visitor experience, leisure or otherwise, soccer tournament, whatever, lacrosse tournament that we have coming up this weekend, they should go to Tahoe, right? They should go to Virginia City, spend a couple of hours. I think that makes for a more robust visit. But I also think we have the opportunity, and James said this earlier, they may be here for that soccer tournament or lacrosse tournament in the case of this weekend, but let's leave them with wanting, I would say, leave them wanting something more, right? So we can maybe get them to come back this fall for a leisure trip that has nothing to do with lacrosse. And I'm hoping that this new strategy will help to drive those sort of secondary visits or incremental visit, during the next year or so.
Board Member Rader?
Thank you, Brian. That was a really nice presentation, and I learned a lot from it. I wondered if there's a way that collaborators can help with collecting data. So, for instance, we talked about the Stewart Father's Day powwow earlier. We do a survey after the end of the powwow. We don't do anything with that survey. I think we should. But is there a way to share those surveys with you as you're collecting data? Another way we do that is we have at the Stewart Indian School Cultural Center and Museum, we have sign-in sheets, so we keep track of who comes in to visit the museum. But we also have other journals sitting around the place that people write really powerful statements in about their experience at the museum. That's just a different kind of way of collecting information and experiences that people have had. So I wondered if there's a way that we can share that with you so it can help you collect your data.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the offer, and I accept. And James will coordinate. And what a great example of community alignment and leading the way forward. Thank you for going first.
Any other questions from the board? Well, Brian, Mike Jones, thank you for your presentation today. Data is what drives all our decisions, and somebody was saying the data we get today will drive what we do next year. And thanks again for proving to me that data can be fun. You were a very good presenter, so thank you.
I should have.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Have a great meeting.
Thank you, Brian. I should have told you the only thing that he's better at than econometric modeling is comedy. So, and he does a great job of combining them in his act when he presents around the country. So, yeah, funny man. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 12, discussion and possible by KPS 3. Discussion and possible action regarding a 3-year sponsorship agreement between the CTA and E720 for the Battle Axe and Tracks event for a total not to exceed the amount of $30,000 paid over 3 years, $12,000 in fiscal year 22, $10,000 in fiscal year 23, and $8,000 in fiscal year 24. David, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, and this was just purely a coincidence that we have Ken Farley and Gina Lopez here representing E720 with what I think is a wonderful event, arts, culture, historic, heritage, outdoor, adventure. It touches on all of our different brand pillars. And this is a great example of, I think what I would think is an appropriate use of the 1% funding to support what I think is a really, really cool event that, like I said, ties all of our brand pillars. I'm not going to steal any of Gina and Ken's thunder, but no. I'll keep going. Oh, okay. Yeah, and so I'm very excited, to have them here in front of us, and probably setting the bar pretty high here, as far as the first arts and culture potentially sponsored funded event. But I hope as you hear the presentation by Ken and Gina, you'll kind of see them touch on what we just talked about, what Brian just went through, as far as how we're looking at, in this case, a new event, and where Visit Carson City gets involved with a new event. So I'm going to turn it over to, okay, so we're a little technical glitch here. Oh, making sure we have sound. That's important because I don't sing very well, so, and I don't dance very well either. But while they're working on the tech side of things, I'll follow up a little bit from Brian's presentation. So again, you all challenged me to come up with sort of this data-driven plan, if you recall, last fall kind of, and I know that came up in my review. What I will say is it's going to take partnerships, right? And working, within the community. I think in this case, different arts and cultural organizations, I think that's an important piece of what we're doing moving forward to figure out what are the best events, where Carson City is involved. Again, is there a financial piece to this? Is it just printing? Is it just we're there, and how we kind of see that unfolding moving forward. So I'm excited again, to have something down on paper that we can sort of have as a roadmap, as we move forward. So with that, I'll let these guys, I think, get started. Go ahead, Gina.
Gina Lopez with E720 for the record. While they're doing that, I feel like after Brian's presentation that we are just handing you a gift in a big perfect bow because we are touching on all of these bases, and we have really, really taken into account that data is going to rule events moving forward. And as we've set up, we've only been launched for a little over a week now. That is certainly the biggest part of our strategy is capturing data. And we have done that, and we have that to share with you even in the first 10 days that this has been launched, that anybody knew about this event. So we're excited to do that. And we do check all of the boxes that he was talking about as far as hitting on the shoulder season, where there's nothing else going on here, and experiential and educational and escapist and entertainment, and certainly immersion with this kind of intimate idea of a music festival up at the Eastgate Depot. So I thought it was very fortunate that we are coming right after his presentation. Are we good? We're getting close. Okay, well, I can still talk. And as far as collaboration, you asked, we have worked with James to help us, James and David at the Visitors Bureau, to help us with the RFQ for to put out for visitors, because we are getting a large percentage of visitors. Ken will talk about that coming in for this event already. We know that's going to happen. And also through our sponsors as well. They're helping market that. And if I would encourage you all to go to our website, battleaxeandtracks.com, after this meeting, and you can see a big part of our website is dedicated to the visitor's experience. There's links and headers to Visit Carson City. We have featured all of the museums in town. We've talked about all of the immersive events. So I would highly encourage you to visit that site and see how we are really, this is really a tourism-driven event.
All right, we're going to try it.
Okay.
Thank you. Ken Farley, local realtor.
You gotta.
Press the button.
No, just one. Just make sure it's green. One more time.
Obviously, I'm not very technical.
There you go.
There we go. All right. Ken Farley, local realtor and managing partner of E720. You introduced yourself, right?
I did.
Okay, cool. Yay. Sorry about that. We're going to try this. I'm not sure if our sound is working correctly or not, but we'll see what happens. Nope. All right, we're gonna play it off my laptop. If we can. There we go. Let's start that over. Used to be up to Wi-Fi. This works really great at home, I promise. All right, so forgive me if I repeat some of what Gina had to say, but who are we? E720 is a Carson-based business with over 25 years of event, VIP, and arts experience. E720, we recently formed this in order to produce experiences, and that's really and truly what the E in E720 stands for, is experience, because that's what we want to focus on in our events, of combining music with everything that we have in this area. And that presented itself with the Eastgate Depot as a natural and perfect location for this first ever music festival in the area. We're going to combine all of our resources in the area at the V&T Railway, along with an outdoor experience, not only here in the area but also in Virginia City. Also, rail bikes, axe throwing. One of the things that we focused on while we were doing this was that experience. People, if they go to a music festival, and this is an all day long 2-day music festival, they're going to have other things to do to keep their interest throughout the day. And that's really what we wanted to focus on, was that experience while people are there, which is why we're working with Freedom Rail Bikes, and we will have the rail bikes running during the festival, along with axe throwing and some other events that people can do while they're at the music festival and enjoying some fantastic music. One of the things that we wanted to do while we were doing this was not only Carson City and Virginia City, all of the businesses, all of the leaders of our communities, it's going to take all of us to work together to make this a successful event. And that's what we've done. We've spoken with a lot of people here in the area, our property owners, and we want to focus on bringing people here to Carson City and Virginia City in this area to let everyone know what it is that we all have to offer and why we think this is a fantastic place to live, work, and play. So getting to the musical lineup, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, he is nominated for 5 Grammy Awards, and here's one of his most popular songs. Larkin Poe is an up-and-coming sister group. Here is them performing for CBS This Morning earlier this year. North Mississippi All-Stars will also be, they were nominated for a Grammy Award earlier this year. Unfortunately, they didn't win, but they were nominated. So Samantha Fish, she is not only one of the top female guitar players right now, but she's one of the top guitar players right now. She's a fantastic guitar player, and that's what we're focusing on is guitars and blues throughout the festival. Carolyn Wonderland is actually one of Gina's favorites. She has a tremendous voice, and she's actually going to challenge the four headliners. People are really, really going to enjoy her and be surprised by what she can perform. And when I the next kid, and I mean that with all due respect, he just turned 18 years old. He's a guitar phenom. Actually played the national anthem for the Kansas City Chiefs playoffs this year. And there's a lot of our musician friends that are really, really excited to have Taz come in and be able to play with him. Ron Artis, he's going to be our change of pace. He's kind of a Hawaiian blues artist, so he's a little bit softer type of blues, but we think everybody's going to really enjoy Ron. Allie Venable, another that I'll call a kid right now for at least for me. She's 22 years old. She's a Kenny Wayne Shepherd protege, and her album this year was for 2 weeks was #1 on the Blues Billboard list. And Ancy McLean in the Trailer Park Troubadours, they're a local favorite. They played at the 11 Amp series, and a lot of people here love Ancy. So what we've done when we pick the lineup is search for those national artists and then some local and area artists also. So it was all put together with purpose. Dennis Johnson, probably one of the top slide guitarists right now going. He's actually played in one of my favorites at the 11 Amp concert series. Ian Moore, he's out of Seattle, another great performer. You know Ian more than I do. You want to say anything about Ian real quick?
Ian has had success in both the blues and rock industry, and he's out of Austin and Seattle, and he has a TED Talk out there, TEDx Carson City. You can listen to it and hear him sing.
Jelly Bread is a Reno group that is also a local favorite here, and we expect to have a lot of people down here from Reno also. Eric Henry Anderson and his band will be playing. Eric is also from Reno and actually a really close friend of ours. And Spike McGuire. What'll be interesting in Spike and 6 Mile Station is that we're going to have the rail bikes running throughout the festival. So when those 15 rail bikes take off to go out to the canyon, and then they got to turn them around and coming back, when they get out there to turn them around, we're going to have Spike out there also. So he's going to be playing so that music experience just continues on. So one of the other things that we looked at and was I think one of my favorite stories about the beginning of E720 and Battle Axe and Tracks is that Gina and I put all our ideas on a big whiteboard, and we were just writing stuff down. And when we wrote our artists that we really wanted, we wrote down about 14 artists, and we said if we could get 2 of these, it would be really, really good. And we ended up getting 4. So we're really, really excited about our lineup. And what we focused on was looking at elements of the artist, kind of as a grading scale, their reach over social media. So Facebook, Instagram, their Spotify listeners, and then an app called Bands in Town where people will put in their favorite band, and if they're coming to their area, that'll notify them to do that. And so we focused on that when we were putting everybody together. And these are our national artists, and those are the totals through those 4 aspects for each artist, which comes up to a total reach of over 5 million people, which we're going to be pushing Battle Axe and Tracks out to those 5 million people daily. Minutely, as much as we can. So based on those numbers, what our goal was in to have at least 3,000 tickets, we're actually targeting about 3,500 right now. projected economic impact with 20% of those attendees staying at least 2 nights in our local hotels, in motels and RVs, spending an average of $120 a day on accommodations, food, beverage, retail, recreation, and gaming, along with transportation, to infuse around $700,000 for the 2-day event into our economy. So this is actually a little bit outdated because we're tracking this daily. How are we doing so far? So in the first 6 days of ticket sales, 24.6% of those sales came from out of state. So we can not only tell what city these people are from, but we have some questions throughout our ticket sale process to find out where these people are going to stay. And a large percentage of those people that are answering are staying in hotels, a few in the RVs, but mostly the hotels and the motels so far. Not only that, as we say, we expect this number to increase. It has. As of today, we're over 30% out of state purchase process from purchasing. So we're really, really excited about that. And just kind of in summary, these are some of the other activities. I spoke about the rail bikes, the axe throwing. There is Friday night before the weekend gets started, we're going to have a local guitar competition. So it's going to be downtown. So we're going to focus on getting people downtown, and we're having a really, really, I would say, a little bit unexpected excitement over the guitar competition, and a lot of people are reaching out. So we've sped up our marketing for that, and you'll be seeing more on that coming up really, really quickly. The disc golf that is out there by the V&T Railway, we're gonna be doing some things with that too. Our VIP opportunities out there, that's gonna be a catered event for our VIPs out there at the Railway Depot. And then another brilliant idea by my partner, Gina, is during the weekend in the mornings, because we're not going to get started till about noon out there, while everybody's getting up and they're eating breakfast and they're getting ready in our area, we're going to have street performers not only throughout Carson City, but also up in Virginia City, just to transform everything here in the area to a music event. So as soon as people get up and get going, they're gonna get hit with live music, and we're really, really excited about that. And what else? Did I miss anything?
I think we're good.
We're good?
You're good.
We got it. There we go. Thank y'all. Thank you,
Perhaps
everyone.
the app, too. Perhaps
Yes.
speak about the app.
Yes, we always forget about the app. We're going to have an app on your phone for the event. Not only will that help people at the event, but it's also going to help people throughout Carson City and things to do in Virginia City, because we'll have those activities on the app as an advertising opportunity also. Did it? That's it? All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. It's Battle Axe and Tracks, October 2nd and 3rd.
Questions from the board? Well, thank you. I think everybody's excited.
Yeah, I have a few. Sorry.
Oh.
I was muted.
Sorry. I forget you when you're not next to me.
Stacy pops in from the space.
I'm easily forgettable. Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. It does sound like an exciting event, and hope everything comes together. You mentioned Virginia City a lot. I'm curious to know if you're contacting them or working with them on seeking funds from their Visitors Bureau as well.
One of the things, and we have talked to Denny up in Virginia City, the event this year for Virginia City, we originally had planned to have a venue up there also, to have people come down via the train into the depot for the event. With COVID, some question marks on what was going to happen with the trains, we made the business decision that we couldn't sell tickets to something that we didn't know was going to happen. So that has been toned down a bit this year. We are going to have some performers up there. We've already talked with Denny and them about strengthening the event in Virginia City next year. So at this point this year, no, we're not seeking funds from Virginia City.
They actually have another event on that same weekend. They have their outhouse races. So we have agreed that next year we will do it on the next event so that they can have a greater participation and really promote this event as opposed to competing with one of their biggest attractions.
Gina, just to clarify, not next event, but the following weekend.
The
Right.
next
Yeah.
year will be in the next week after the outhouse races, so we can all work together on that.
Yes.
And then can you talk a little bit about how you envision the venue working? 3,000 participants this year, and I know you're talking about increasing it in the out years. Parking just seems like a nightmare out there. So I guess I'd just like to hear how you envision that working out in terms of, coordinating a stage and the rail bikes and axe throwing and parking and the comings and goings.
Yes, and actually, that's been a focus of ours from the very beginning. We originally had thought about not having any on-site parking at all out there because of those difficulties, and we were going to shuttle people in. It became evident when we started researching that that was a logistical nightmare and that wasn't going to be feasible. So we've have several different ideas on that. We will be having some shuttle service working with Uber Events, but what we've done is the RC field out there. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the radio control field out there. We're talking with them about using their venue for some parking, and we're also working with the city and BLM on a parking lot that's already kind of been planned for an Eastgate Depot expansion. So it's already out there. We're gonna take it and move it up a few years is the plan. So we're gonna be putting a parking lot, in summary, out there.
And so, David, I guess I would ask you that payment is contingent in your mind on those details getting worked out in terms of I saw the agreement, and I know it says that all the agreements have to be in place and whatnot. And, I don't know if it's in our purview as the CTA to accept or deny this based on parking, but I wouldn't want to give them, seed money and we find out that there's just no place to put people. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on monitoring that.
Stacy, yeah, this is Dave. You're absolutely right. And I'm obviously very aware of the Eastgate Station terminal parking lot, the BLM right-of-way granted land to the V&T Railway Commission and that process. And I know there's a major project review or MPR process that Gina and Ken are going through with the city. So, with the department heads and everything as well. And you're right, this agreement or sponsorship agreement is contingent upon all of those different pieces of the puzzle kind of fitting together. And it was the same approach we took as the V&T Railway Commission with the facility rental lease of the depot is the same process here as well, where all these different transportation plans and MPR, and I'm sorry that I don't know the specific process that Gina and Ken are going through with the city on that front, but yeah, all those little boxes need to be checked, basically, right? As far as this is done, this is done, this is done, special event permitting, they're working with Hope and the team there as well. So that's the idea is all of those boxes are checked, all those different permits or grading or whatever are necessary. And I don't pretend to understand all the different permits. Transportation plans are in place with Department of Transportation, of course, as well, because you're coming out on Highway 50, that all of those things are worked out first.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And
Thank you,
this is
Stacey.
Gina Lopez. Just to be clear, on future events, we're not actually planning on growing it too much bigger than 3,500. We like the idea, and we think it's a unique idea to do an intimate festival. If our visitors go to Coachella or Bottle Rock, they're going to be there with 150,000 people, and that's not exactly ideal for a lot of people. Many people we've talked to about this idea, they really like the experience of a boutique, intimate festival where they can see their friends and find their friends again and be able to interact with the performers along the way. So we're actually not planning on growing it for future years, but keep the experience the same.
Well, yeah, my 2 cents is I think you're right on the mark there, Gina, because I think one of the things we learned in this pandemic is that I think it's going to take a while for people to get comfortable going back into big groups again. And so, I applaud your business decision in that regard, because I think quantity doesn't always mean quality. And I like that you're really focused on quality with this event. That's clear with the artists that you have planned. So I applaud you both for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the sponsorship agreement CTA-SA-22-01 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Look
Appreciate it.
forward to the event.
And we can make all the data and statistics available upon request.
Oh, the smile on James' face when he heard that. Oh, my goodness.
I'd like to say the coup de grace would be assuming that Kenny Wade Shepherd ends with blue on black. That last line, could you get him to replace that with battle axe and tracks?
And to have all of the performers on the stage at the end too. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Move on to item 13, monthly non-action items. David?
Thank you, Mike. So 13A, Executive Director's Report. Two quick things. Just want to let the board know that Travel Nevada earlier today opened up a fiscal 22 marketing grant program. So we have about 4 weeks, maybe a little less than, to get those grants submitted. And right now we're treating it as though it's going to be the only cycle for fiscal 22. So we've got a whole list of projects that we're going to be kind of prioritizing, vetting, and we're going to treat it as though one cycle, throw it all out there and see what we get in terms of funding back. So great opportunity there. I don't know about the projects related to tourism grant program, whether or not there will or there won't be one. But as I learn more, maybe for the next meeting, I can update everybody on that front. And then the second thing, if you all recall, the MOPO folks, where we've got the app, and this is something that we're in there at no cost to us as the Destination Marketing Management Organization. So I'm happy to say that tomorrow, the MOPO team from the owner on down are going to be here in person, and they're going to be onboarding us onto the new app officially as they're getting ready to launch. I don't know, Lydia, maybe within the next 30 to 60 days, perhaps. So this is going to give us access now to control our page and the content, and then to prepare for the launch, as well as what content is going to be on there when this goes live to the public. So I'm excited. There's some good progress. So we're going to be testing this, I think, on the iPhones and the Samsung devices moving forward. So those are my two quick updates on 13. Unless there are any questions, I can move on to 13B. Okay, so in your packet, you've got the large 11 by 17 paper. This is for fiscal 21 still. I'm happy to say, if you recall, we projected about a 1.7% increase for April, and we wound up at 8.36% for the month of April. So very pleased to see that. We've got a couple months to go in the fiscal year, but I'm hoping to see the same increase for May and June. So right now, you can see kind of where we're tracking there against the budget as presented, up about 20% at this point as compared to the budget that we had originally submitted in May of 2020. So things are looking very well. So unless there are any questions on that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to James to do a nice events and sales update. So welcome back, James. And I'm going to let you do the real thing, not an imposter like I was the last month. So thank you, James.
Thank you, David. I just wanted to recap some of the things that have happened in the past couple of months. We had our first ABA marketplace, which is similar to NTA, which is our appointments with tour operators. This one specifically focused on tour operators east of the Mississippi River. And so typically this event is one event in person, but they split it to two events on two separate days. One in May 25th, and another one in on June 8th. And so what you're seeing here is a list of some of the schedule for the appointments that we had and some of the people that we were able to meet with to try to help them, educate them on things that are in Carson City for potential tours in the future. So that was our May one, and then this past last week on June 8th, we had our second appointment settings on there. At the time of putting this board presentation together, we actually didn't have our appointment set until after I submitted this to David. So that's why you're not seeing a listing on there, but I'll make sure to include the listings of those tour operators at our next board meeting. Upcoming tours, we have Tours of Distinction coming up for June 29th, July 1. We are hosting them at the Stewart Indian School. They'll be having food there. Bobby Rader's been able to help tremendously with putting together that plan, so we're very thankful for her and her help. We also have Brilliant Adventures coming in on a tour in 2022. Some of the tournaments, obviously this coming weekend, I didn't list it on there, but is the lacrosse tournament. I'll get into more details about that in a couple of slides when I talk on the RFQs. The Tours of Distinction tour, their itinerary is kind of listed there on the right for you to review. Wonderful to get them to come from Las Vegas to build a tour all the way through here in Reno and in Carson City. She was actually one of our appointments last year at NTA, so to see her kind of progressively put together an itinerary in such a short time frame was a big win for us. More events coming up. The check marks here are events that have already kind of happened in May 20th to 22nd. We did have Sports Leisure Vacations here for a tour, one of our tour operators from Sacramento. We just finished both part 1 and part 2 of our ABA Marketplace. We have a big tournament, a lacrosse tournament here coming this weekend, followed by RSVP 4th of July Carnival. We're supporting them this year beyond what we would typically support, simply because we want to get them back to 100% running. In the past, we have printed brochures for them and kind of help them with their marketing. But this time around, I think we're doing a lot more simply because they weren't even anticipating doing a carnival up until the restrictions were kind of loosened a little bit. And then the last one here that we have a flyer for is our Downtown Revival Car Show. Sharon reached out to us last week to give me an update, and they have over 140 cars already signed up. And she says typically the day of, they usually get around 40% more cars. So it's looking good for her July 10th Revival Car Show. RFQs. We wanted to talk about some of these RFQs and the process of why we do them. Obviously, RFQs for us is important because we want to make sure that any investments that we're putting into for an event or a tour operator, that our lodging properties gets first rights, first dibs on trying to secure that business. And so the pay dirt, obviously, we were supposed to do that in 2020, but COVID happened, and so we sent out a new RFQ this year, and the room request for the entire duration was 360 rooms. The second one here is the lacrosse tournament coming this weekend. This one actually quite shocked us because when we were in negotiations with trying to bring them here and facilitate and organizing, the event itself, we didn't get to the room request until much later in the game. And when they told us that they needed 300 or 1,200 rooms a night, we knew we were in trouble because we cannot accommodate that here in Carson. So working with some of the third-party vendors, were able to put together a specific deal for Carson City properties, and then they outsourced to our regional partners. Battle Action Tracks was just here. We put together an RFQ for them. This is actually a conservative room request, simply because we weren't quite sure the demand at the time when we sent them out, but I specifically put in the RFQ that, there is a chance that this room request could increase. So this is just a very conservative number. And then the Brilliant Adventures, this is a 2022 tour, but we're already putting together the room blocks for that now. And I just wanted to put the notes on the bottom there that, special events, they have to meet certain requirements in order for us to even consider putting RFQs together. So. And the last thing I wanted to note was that governor directives are done. I don't have to keep track of and make sure that we're in compliance anymore. So that's a good thing, and it makes it a lot easier for events to take place. Obviously, we still need to be smart and be cautious, and make sure that we're following any city guidelines based off of, as new information comes out. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, James. And I'll echo what James said. On some of those events, those are low numbers, to be honest with you, because originally we were thinking 400 riders for Statna. Now they think maybe 800 to 1,000 potential registered riders, right, will be coming for the September event. So we'll keep updating the numbers, as the months go by, and try to let everybody know where things stand. And you heard from Gina today, we took a very conservative, I don't even know if we were using 20% initially in terms of the out-of-state folks, but they are already over 30%. And my conversation with Gina last week, they could, potentially push 35, 40% out-of-state ticket sales. So that'll be several hundred additional room nights generated from that particular event as well. So great. I'll go ahead, Mike, if it's okay. Moving on to 13D, Arts and Culture Update. So I am super happy to say that after a very, very long, lengthy recruitment process, we found our new Arts and Culture Program Manager. So we started with 27 applicants in this process, cut that down to 7 for the panel, and then Mike and I met with the top 3 folks at that point. And I'm very happy to say that Deborah Soul has been selected, and she's out of Boulder City right now. And she comes to us with more than 20 years of experience to the role. She has worked in municipal, state government positions in Australia, Canada, and the United States. And honestly, I couldn't be happier to welcome her to the Visit Carson City team later this month. So she'll officially be underway in a remote capacity as of this Friday, if all goes well and all the paperwork goes through. But what did it for me, and you heard experiential tourism from, kind of 2 presentations today, and you saw that kind of coming to life in the Battle Axe and Tracks presentation. Not only did she know what experiential tourism was when we interviewed her, but she's actually implemented arts and culture related experiential tourism programming through heritage trails and walking trails. So I see nothing but good, positive things to come forward. So, and we're looking forward to working with the Cultural Commission, of course, as we continue to build a thriving arts and culture scene for Carson City visitors and residents alike. So I think this is a great future that we have with the arts and culture program. So that's the update on the position itself. I would like to give a quick update on the 2 mural projects, if I may, Mike. On the outside mural, that's our Welcome to Carson City mural. Mr. Rivera did complete that last Friday, so we are just waiting to coordinate between Carson City Facilities and Mr. Rivera for the actual installation on the north side of our building. So I'll let everybody know once we get the installation date in place. We'll work on the unveiling with the Rotary and the city and the Cultural Commission and all the different groups that were involved in the mural project and the funding of the project. So that's a quick update on the outside mural. The new entryway Carson City Visitor Information Center mural that's going to greet our travelers with a sort of a Sunday funnies style panel design, which I'm very excited about. The team did a great job. They selected the artist and they came up with what I think is just a really cool, something unique. I don't think there's anything like this in Carson City. And I'm very excited to say that we're moving forward with the design. So each panel will contain a well-researched vignette featuring Carson City's colorful culture and its history, fascinating local legends, and unique destinations. So it's sort of designed, I guess, Anne would say probably to inspire curiosity and a sense of fun about exploring Carson City. And it kind of dovetails in with our where history lives and adventure awaits concept, right? That we have messaging out there to our visitors. So again, it was designed by Nevada artist Ann O'Lear. And again, it's really there to kind of engage our visitors with a bit of a humorous style to draw them in. We know that we're going to have these QR codes in there, and I'll probably screw this up. So if I do, somebody can just explain it better. But the QR codes will be kind of incorporated into the actual mural, so you can hover your phone over it. No, we're not doing that anymore. Okay, never mind. But just strike that from the record. So I was okay. Never mind. I'll leave it at that. So I'm a little bit outside the loop on that, but. Anyway, Anne's got cartoon work that's been published in a variety of different magazines, including the Saturday Evening Post, Card Player, Jazz Times, and True Detective. And she's got her gambling series, which is featured in The Art of Gambling Throughout the Ages by the Huntington Press. So she was underway last week. We've got tape up on the wall. She's got stuff everywhere. So we've currently closed off the front part of the visitor center to allow her to work in peace and quiet as much as possible. The team talks a lot, so I told her that's probably going to be difficult for her. But anyway, the goal is to have the mural done by the end of June or the first week of July at the latest. So that's my arts and culture update. Any questions on arts and culture? If not, I would like Lydia to go ahead and begin 13E, the marketing and PR update.
All right. For the record, Lydia Beck. We're rounding home. I hope you're all still with me. This has been a lengthy meeting, but full of amazing information. So I have quite a few things to go through today. Most importantly being our media plan for not only for us, but for the arts and culture as well. We'll go through the PR report, the streaming TV update, the Expedia update, digital and social, and then also a couple new videos to show you. So in front of you, what you see here is our proposed media plan. So you'll see, especially in our digital aspects, all the funds are distributed equally throughout the months, but some of those might be pulled for our busier months, just depending on projects and things like that. So this is just kind of to make it easy on us for today. But we have a strong mix for our media layout this year. So we're upping our search budget a little bit from last year, especially on our busiest months, as that's our attributor that gives us the ability to track our room night referrals. And that way we get to see those conversions of who's actually clicking off of our website to go to our hotel properties, and what helps us drive room nights. We also will continue our display remarketing and YouTube advertising, in addition to adding some budget for streaming, which hopefully we can supplement with some grants coming up. So we can be able to beef that up longer than just a couple of months. And our social media is also adjusted for our busier months. Our print advertising includes our billboard, Travel Nevada Visitor Guide, Adventure Sports Journal to promote our bike races. We hope to also continue the Expedia co-op as long as Travel Nevada continues to do so. We also are looking at potential to tap into MAB TV to help promote our adventure sports and activities, especially like our Pine Nut Mountain Trails and our OHV. And then we also, on the last category here, have our influencer and media work budget that will help supplement Chrissy's activities that she was talking about today that will help fund those activities that they do around town and to get them here to Carson City. So here you'll see the breakdown. We have a total of $165,000 for our media budget. These are our buckets that we're looking at in the distribution for each. So any questions on that before I move to the arts and culture media plan? Okay. All right. So arts and culture, considering we don't have someone in place yet, and we're still building this program, we went pretty simple with this. So we're going to allocate some dollars towards search that will be directed for specific arts and culture attractions or potential events that are coming up. We're also going to do the same for display retargeting. Some things that we could do is if we have an arts and culture event, say potentially the powwow, Bobby, if we see people going to the landing page for that event on our website, we can redeliver targeting ads that says book your hotel room for that. Same for Battle Axe and Tracks. So that's why we have some display and retargeting for that. We have some social budget that will help bolster those events for arts and culture. And then we've set aside some dollars just for some miscellaneous last minute activities that might be able to come up for print, as well as co-op or just miscellaneous projects in general. And we're hoping that that Deborah will be able to consult us with. So we do have a $12,000 media budget set aside for that. And you can see the bucket distribution under at the year-to-date summary.
And Lydia, just, I want to add one thing. So Deborah will be here next Thursday and Friday, and Lydia and I are actually going to meet with her and talk through what we've initially kind of laid out, just to get some feedback and thoughts from her. And so this might evolve and change. So just think of these as living, breathing documents, both of the media plans, and they might fluctuate between the months. We might shift things between channels, mediums, et cetera, as well. So
Yes.
yeah, but Lydia did a wonderful job of just getting something down on paper, so we can kind of help on board the new person and solicit some input, in this case from Deborah. So
Exactly. These are very much living and breathing documents. So these will likely change throughout the year, but this is all based off of what we've done in previous years and what we hope to do. Our May PR report was great, thanks to Stewart Indian School Cultural Center Museum. They were published in a New York Times article about immersing yourself in Indigenous culture. So I'm sorry, forget the March, that's supposed to say May. I totally missed that. But our unique visitors per month for May was 93 million. Our reach was 764,000, and our publicity value was $243.6 thousand. So our streaming update. So far for Hulu, we are going to be wrapping this up at the end of this month, so that we have to wrap up a little bit early before the end of the month, so we can get in our grant summaries and get our reimbursements. But so far we've delivered 63,733 impressions. We've reached 28,000 people over 2 times each. Our ad has been delivered to those people. You'll see we're still sitting strong in the comedy and drama buckets, and mostly playing on living room devices. So I do have some numbers for you from Spectrum, which we were all curious about last month, because we were starting actually the day of our last meeting. So far we've delivered 54,000 impressions with a 97.97 completion rate. In the very small numbers, you'll see the geography. Those are some of our top zip codes. Now, as a reminder, Hulu is delivering to the Vegas market, and Spectrum is delivering to the Sacramento market. So this is all clustered in where you can see in that map above. So obviously things are almost at 100% completion for almost every delivery. What's cool about Spectrum is they're actually showing us exactly what apps that are or websites that our ad is playing on. So MSNBC, Investigation Discovery, TLC, HGTV, Discovery, Food Network, History, TV Land, CNBC, Spectrum News, Buzzer, Travel Channel. So we're on some really great websites that are perfect for our target markets that we were looking at that Chrissy had mentioned before. So any questions on streaming? Okay. All right, the Expedia update, which I am excited to give you guys. This is the numbers that we've received so far from when we started the campaign until about a week and a half ago. So we've delivered over 4.2 million impressions. We've had almost 2,000 people click onto our landing page for the co-op campaign. We've booked over $100,000 in room nights for a total of 903 gross bookings. So obviously we love this campaign. We love being able to see that we've delivered room nights with this, and thankful to our grant program that have allowed us to do this and be a substantial contributor to this co-op. So thank you to Travel Nevada for that, and for putting these on, because it's making an impact in our community. And I'll quickly go through our digital marketing update. So our paid social media is what you see here. We put paid dollars into Instagram and to Facebook. And you can see that our total engagements here were 20,652. So that's how many likes, comments, shares, link clicks, like actual engagements with our ads that are happening, which is obviously what we want to see. We don't want to be delivering ads that people aren't engaging with. So that is actually up from last month. And then this number here below, one thing that's taken into consideration, you'll see that our impressions are down, but our video views and our engagements are up over last month, We're actually seeing a decrease in impressions overall due to the iPhone iOS update. And so we are combating that and monitoring that quite a bit, but we're happy to see that what matters is up. And though our impressions are down, we're still reaching good people and quality people that want to see our content. So I'll continue to give updates on that, but it is an ever evolving beast that is changing all the time now that more iPhone updates are getting the update. So we're monitoring that and trying to adjust our ads to make sure that we are constantly on top of that, because that is obviously a huge concern in the marketing world right now. For our Google ads, we last month delivered about 165,000 total impressions. We had about 2,000 clicks to the website. Our click-through rate overall with all the combined, that includes video and display, is 1.2%. Usually it's a little bit less than that for overall combined, but our search campaign click-through rate is over 10%. So we're definitely getting interested people to Carson City and to our hotels page. Our conversion rate, our number of conversions was 150. So it's 150 people that are clicking off and going to our hotel partners. And we reached about 21,500 unique users through our Google ads. One thing that we didn't touch on last month was our website top content. So these are our top 10 web pages that landing page views that you'll see here. So our homepage is usually our number one, as most people are just landing there and searching for us in general. But number 2 is things to do. Number 3 was our hotels page, which is great to see. Number 4 was events. 5 was rail bikes. And then number 6 was also the click off from rail bikes to explain what to expect from your experience. Then the Kit Carson Trail, the Kings Canyon Waterfall, the Capitol Building, and then our attractions page overall. So I do have a couple of videos to share with you all that Zach had finished up. Zach actually just had his baby last week, so he's officially on paternity leave here for a bit. So these were the last 2 videos he wrapped up before he left. And this one is pretty much a trailer or commercial for the state prison tours, which we are happy to see are now officially up and running and able to be advertised. So big thanks to Glenn for helping us with this and the Preservation Society.
When you come to the Nevada State Prison, what you're going to see is a slice of prison life. My name is Glenn Wharton, and I started at the Nevada State Prison in 1973 as a correctional officer. As you tour the Nevada State Prison, you're going to see the administrative areas, you're going to see the visiting room, you're going to see the mess hall, the yard where people spent their time and basically kicked rocks, the cell house where the prisoners lived and the staff worked, the maximum security unit, and probably the most bizarre thing is going to be the execution chamber. If you come to the Nevada State Prison, it will be the best 2 hours that you spend in Carson City. It's truly a historic and entertaining experience.
Right, and next, June 5th was National Trails Day, as among a huge event day in Carson City. So Zach also put this together for us to help promote that and just promote the trails in general. So we have another version of this that doesn't have the ending on it that we'll be using on our trails page.
Carson City has a wonderful trail system, both the urban and the foothill trail system. And if you're not out on those trails, you're really missing it.
So our trails are open to hikers, mountain bikers, dog walkers, runners, equestrians. We've got a little something for everybody.
Trails here in Carson are simply spectacular, and the access to them is so easy. There's a network of tarred paths in the city that lead directly up to these dirt tracks, and once you're up on the mountain, it is simply spectacular.
So there's something for everybody all year long, and come out and enjoy our trails.
So big thanks to Muscle Powered and Pete Dunges who helped us with that, and obviously Greg Bergard from our Trails coordinator. So we were able to promote that and get a couple of different versions of that out before Trails Day and help promote their event as well. And that is all of our marketing updates. So happy to entertain any questions if anyone has any. All right.
Oh,
Thank
Mike,
you.
Do you have a question?
All right.
Okay, thank you, Lydia.
Will we
Mike?
be getting updates about the prison tours or information?
They actually just sent some today. So they officially have all the tours and times listed on their website. And I believe they're going to do special tours all weekend long for the holiday weekend for 4th of July. But other than that, they'll be operating just on Saturdays. And correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes,
that's
correct.
that's the plan.
We'll share something out with all of you. It just came in this afternoon from Brew over there at the Prison Preservation Society. So we'll get an email out to all of you with the updates as we know them. But yeah, I'm excited that at least there's a schedule, a working schedule now, which is great. So with that, we'll go ahead. Thank you, Lydia. We'll move on to 13F, future agenda items. Do any of the board members have a request for anything at the upcoming meeting? No? Okay. Go ahead, Bobby.
Will we be able to meet Deborah at that meeting?
Of course. Yeah. The plan is, yeah, she'll be here in person for the July meeting, but I'm going to try to get her in front of each of you in the meantime, if possible, probably the week before, if her transition up here and she secures housing works out there for the first full week of July. But yes, she's going to be here. So you won't have to hear an arts and culture update from me anymore. Which I know you're super excited to hear from a real arts and culture person. So 13G, upcoming meetings. So our next meeting is July 12th at 4 p.m. So just mark that on your schedules if it's not there already. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mike.
Thank you, David. We'll move on to item 14, board comments or announcements or requests for information. Anything from anyone?
This is Bobby Rader. I'd just like to say that we really enjoyed having our TT meet at Stewart last Wednesday.
You guys did a great job. So everybody really enjoyed being out there and being outside. And I think it was a great experience. And again, we have this amazing arts, culture, historical attraction in our own backyard. And I say that relative to our partners in the other communities in the Reno Tahoe territory. A lot of those folks had never been out to Stewart. So it was really great for them to experience the facility and I think look at how they can incorporate that into group tour and motor coach opportunities, to bring them down here to Carson City. So you guys did a great job. Nicely done.
Well, thank you for making it happen.
Thanks. We'll move to item 15, public comment. Is there any? I don't see any on site, but any phone?
There are no callers on the line at this time.
Thank you. With that, well, 16, if I could get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.